Libra, dear one. What if the reason you found this video today is because your soul already knew something your mind is still trying to deny? What if this isn't just a video? What if this is a turning point? You're not here by accident. You're here because the universe whispered, it's time to walk away. Right now, in the quiet spaces of your heart, something sacred is stirring. It's not weakness. It's not giving up. It's the sacred ache of knowing you've stayed somewhere too long in a mindset, a connection, a life role that no longer honors your truth. And Libra, you know it. You've always been the peacekeeper, the balancer, the one who sacrifices to keep the harmony alive. But somewhere along the way, you forgot that your soul deserves balance too. This video is your reminder. This is the universe saying, you're allowed to leave. You're allowed to choose yourself. Today's reading is not just about physical departure. It's about emotional liberation. About walking away from people, patterns, and places that no longer serve who you're becoming. And that journey? It begins with honesty. Imagine standing at a threshold, one foot still in the familiar, the other hesitating before the unknown. It's scary, yes. But growth often is. And walking away doesn't mean you've failed. It means your soul is done settling. As we move deeper into this reading, you'll hear messages from the Star, Six of Swords, the Tower, and the Sun, four sacred guides that will walk with you through this transformation. You will see clearly what you've been clinging to and why it's finally time to let go. You will learn how every ending carves space for your true light to return. And as one ancient teaching reminds us, when the foundations shake, it is not to punish you but to free you. What you thought would break you may just be what sets you free. Libra, before we dive in, let me take a moment to offer my deepest gratitude. Every time you hit the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to Zodiac Whisper Tarot, you're not just helping this channel grow. You're becoming part of a spiritual family. Your presence matters more than you know. So if this message is already stirring something in you, if you felt like something in your life has quietly expired, I invite you to write this in the comments right now. I choose myself, even if it hurts. That one sentence can shift the energy around you. And trust me, Libra, you're going to want to stay with me until the very last second of this video. Because what the universe is revealing today, it's not just powerful, it's destined. And it's time you hear the truth. So now, let's begin. Breathe deeply. Come back to your center. And ask yourself, what part of me is quietly begging to be released, and who might I become if I finally let it go? There are moments in life when clarity doesn't come from answers, but from stillness, when the world around you quiets just enough for you to hear the gentle pull of your own truth. The Star card represents that moment. It is not loud, it does not demand, it simply is a quiet, unwavering light in a time of internal chaos. For Libra, this energy is especially potent, because you are often the one who calms the storm for others. You are the equilibrium everyone leans on, the voice of reason in the midst of emotional turbulence. But here's a question worth asking yourself now. In your effort to be the balance for others, have you forgotten what brings you balance? The Star card doesn't promise a quick fix or instant relief. Instead, it offers something deeper, the assurance that hope, when nurtured from within, can become a magnetic force that pulls you toward healing. As someone well versed in cosmic timing and energetic transitions, I can tell you this: when the star appears, it's not just a spiritual, it's a cosmic alignment telling you that this is a window for recalibration. This card often comes after a metaphorical collapse tower moment, and it serves as the first thread of light in the reconstruction of your inner world. From the lens of energetic psychology, this card reminds us that the most radical act of self-reclamation is to feel what you feel without apology. You've likely grown used to downplaying your discomfort, wearing the mask of "I'm fine," not because you're deceptive, but because peace at all costs has become your default. But peace that is not honest is not peace, it's silent erosion. The star asks you to become radically honest with yourself. That doesn't mean broadcasting your pain to the world. It means, in the quiet of your own space, admitting where it hurts. That moment of truth is the beginning of your realignment. Now, let's fold in the law of attraction. When you honor what is true within you, even if it's messy or inconvenient, your frequency changes. You stop attracting situations that reflect who you're pretending to be, and you begin drawing in experiences that support who you actually are. This isn't just spiritual theory, it's energy science. Your internal honesty becomes a beacon, signaling to the universe, "I'm ready for what matches my truth." And what a beautiful thing that is. Because when your truth becomes the compass, you no longer need to beg for direction, it finds you. The guidance here is subtle but clear: choose transparency over perfection. Choose alignment over approval. Choose the long path of growth over the quick fix of suppression. In quieter moments, remember what's been whispered across generations. Sometimes the peace you're looking for doesn't arrive until you finally tell the truth to yourself. That kind of peace doesn't require external validation, it blossoms when your inner world is no longer at war with itself. So, Libra, I invite you to pause and ask yourself this: what part of my life looks calm but feels chaotic inside? What part of me is asking for light to be shed on it, gently but truthfully? Comment below if this resonates with you. Simply write, "I'm ready for my truth to lead me," if you feel called to name this moment. Because naming it is where the energy begins to shift. You don't need to rush. You don't need to perform. All you need is the willingness to follow that one quiet star, your inner knowing, and let it guide you home. Sometimes what propels us forward is not the promise of what lies ahead, but the quiet knowing that we simply cannot stay where we are. The Six of Swords carries this exact energy: tender, undeniable urge to move, not out of bitterness or anger, but because something deep within you has outgrown the old framework. And Libra, you understand this more than most. As a sign governed by Venus, you naturally seek harmony and connection, but there comes a point when keeping the peace outside begins to destroy the peace within. This card is not just about physical departure. It speaks of a soul-level transition, a necessary detachment from an identity, belief system, or relationship that once felt like home but now only feels like resistance. It is the moment when you realize that the version of yourself you've been carrying no longer fits, and not because it failed, but because it served its purpose. Like a boat slipping away from shore, your spirit is ready to float toward a new destination, even if the waters are unfamiliar. In energy terms, the Six of Swords represents a recalibration. Your vibration is shifting because you're no longer in alignment with what you once tolerated. And as difficult as it may be to walk away, the alternative, staying in stagnation, costs you far more than discomfort ever could. The truth is, growth rarely comes wrapped in comfort. It's often disguised as loss, uncertainty, or even. But just because you're moving through a quiet season doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're being redirected. From a psychological lens, this is the part where emotional fatigue often sets in. You've held on for so long, tried to make things work, tried to be enough for others, or to fit a version of life that used to fulfill you. And now, your nervous system is waving a white flag. The stress, the headaches, the sleepless nights, these are all signs that your body is begging for release. One of the most healing things you can do right now is practice conscious breathing. Even just 10 minutes each morning of slow, intentional breath can help your system reset. Herbal support like chamomile or ashwagandha tea can also assist in softening the transition. In love, this card speaks volumes. Relationships that require you to shrink, twist, or constantly explain your worth are not rooted in truth. If you've been molding yourself just to be loved or understood, it's time to reevaluate. Love that is real doesn't require performance. It allows room for your authentic self to breathe. And if walking away is what it takes to make space for that kind of love, then walking away is an act of courage, not failure. This is also a powerful moment to reflect. Ask yourself gently, what am I choosing to release this month? What beliefs, roles, or connections have expired but I keep reviving out of guilt or fear? Write it down. Say it aloud. Acknowledge it with honesty and compassion. Because when you release what no longer nourishes you, you create room for what truly will. And as a quiet reminder passed down in ancient wisdom teaches us, when you are called to leave, do not look back with shame. Let your departure be sacred, not sorrowful. The journey ahead may not offer all the answers right away, but it will offer you something far more valuable: yourself. The most honest, unfiltered, untamed version of who you are becoming. And that, dear Libra, is worth every wave you must cross. What if the thing that's falling apart isn't meant to destroy you but to set you free? That's the quiet truth behind the Tower. Unlike more comforting cards, this one doesn't come wrapped in softness. It arrives like lightning, sudden and impossible to ignore. But if you look beyond the cracks and broken pieces, you'll find something sacred hidden beneath the collapse, the end of illusion. For Libra, a sign often devoted to balance, grace, and holding things together for the sake of others, the Tower is one of the most misunderstood but ultimately liberating messages you can receive. It disrupts, yes, but only the structures that were never real to begin with. And perhaps that's the real miracle, not that you kept it all standing for so long, but that you finally let what was false fall away. In astrology and energetic work, the Tower's energy aligns with the planet Uranus' sudden shifts, awakening jolts, radical liberation. And while these moments may feel chaotic or even cruel in the moment, they are often the only things strong enough to break us free from the invisible prisons we've lived in far too long. Sometimes those prisons look like success. Sometimes they wear the face of loyalty, tradition, or even love. But if they require you to suppress who you truly are just to stay standing, were they ever built for you in the first place? In the practical world, Tower moments often show up through burnout, career shifts, or an unraveling of beliefs that once gave you comfort. If you found yourself dragging your feet each morning, staying in a job that has long since lost its fire, ask yourself this: am I choosing stability or just avoiding change? One of the hardest truths to accept is that not all foundations are worth saving. And in healing work, we learn that when the body starts to break down through chronic stress, fatigue, or emotional exhaustion, it's often a sign that our inner architecture is demanding a complete redesign. There's also a spiritual lesson here that doesn't need a religious label to be meaningful. As has been echoed in ancient wisdom, sometimes it's not about asking for the pain to go away, but about asking for the strength to see what the pain is trying to free you from. When something breaks, whether it's a relationship, a belief, or a role you once played, it doesn't mean you failed. It means the season has ended. And the beauty in that ending is that it carves space for truth. What if you didn't try to fix it this time? What if, instead of rushing to rebuild, you sat quietly in the rubble and asked, "What am I finally free from?" That kind of pause is powerful. It's a moment where ego steps back, and soul steps forward. Because when the tower falls, and you're still standing, you realize you were never the tower. You were the light behind it. So ask yourself now, what have you been holding up with tired hands that was never yours to carry? What mask have you worn so long, you forgot it wasn't your skin? What truth have you ignored because facing it felt like too much but avoiding it now feels unbearable? This isn't about abandoning responsibility or burning bridges recklessly. It's about releasing what's already gone in spirit, so you can reclaim what's been waiting, your breath, your honesty, your freedom. When the dust settles, you'll notice something remarkable. There's nothing left to pretend about. And that is where life finally begins. There comes a moment, often after the longest night, when light begins to return, not in a flash, not with grand declarations, but in the quiet warmth of something inside you softening again. That's what the sun represents. It's not just happiness or success in a surface sense, it's liberation. It's waking up and realizing that the weight you've carried has finally lifted, not because the world around you changed, but because you did. The appearance of the sun following the intensity of the tower and the silent passage of the Six of Swords marks a divine order and energetic transition. After releasing the false, detaching from what you've outgrown, and walking through the fire of your own emotional honesty, you've made space for light, for joy, for truth. And now the universe responds. The Sun card doesn't promise that all pain disappears, but it does affirm that clarity and vitality are returning. Not as a reward, but as a reflection of the courage you've already shown. In energy work, we speak often about frequency. When you align with what is true, even if it's messy, you rise out of the dense fog of suppression. And once you stop pretending, light finds you faster. The sun teaches that the way back to yourself is through joy. Not surface level, performance-based joy, but the kind that comes from knowing you're no longer shrinking to fit where you don't belong. That's why this card is so powerful for Libra. As someone ruled by Venus, you are naturally attuned to beauty, warmth, and harmony. The sun reminds you that these qualities are not only things you give to others, they are your birthright, too. When it comes to daily life, this card brings practical yet profound reminders. Financially, it's time to pause and reflect. Are you spending to soothe or to expand? There's a difference. True abundance grows when you invest in what cultivates your potential, not when you try to patch a wound with a purchase. If you've been feeling depleted, consider redirecting your energy toward growth-based choices. Maybe it's a course, a skill, or a long-delayed dream. Those are the seeds the sun loves to grow. In your social life, the sun encourages vulnerability, not performance. You no longer need to curate your presence to earn a place. It's okay to let people see the unfiltered you. In fact, that's where the deepest connections will form. If you've been surrounded by people who only understand the version of you that hides your complexity, then maybe it's time to let that version fade. Not everyone can meet the real you, but those who can will bring light, not shadows. Even your visual and energetic expression matter now. Think of color as emotional language. Wearing amber orange, warm gold, or soft ivory can activate your solar energy, confidence, optimism, inner radiance. Let those colors be a declaration of the joy you're willing to receive. Numerologically, this moment carries the power of 1, new beginning, 6, emotional healing and forward motion, and 19, the sun, a sacred triad that speaks of rising not just from the ashes, but into a life that feels alive. So as you continue moving forward, ask yourself, what color will you wear today to honor the light returning to your life? Comment below if one of those colors calls to you. Even small acts of intentional living like what you choose to wear can become rituals of healing and empowerment. You are not who you were when this journey began. You are softer, stronger, more aligned. And now, the light doesn't come to fix you, it comes because you made space for it. Let it in. Let it show you what's next. Let it remind you that joy is not something you earn, it's something you allow. And maybe now, standing at this part of the journey, you're beginning to realize something that changes everything. Not that you failed, not that you ran away, but that you finally outgrew the version of yourself that was built only to survive. That's the deeper truth the universe has been quietly placing in your hands. You're not leaving because you're weak. You're leaving because you're wise enough to know when something no longer honors your growth. This is not escape. This is evolution. From the first moment the stars showed up in your reading, the energy of hope began to work within you. Not a loud, flashy hope, but a quiet, persistent light enough to help you keep going when things made no sense. You may not have seen the full picture then, but something in you knew the old life couldn't contain the new soul being born. That was the seed. Then came the 6 of Swords, the passage, the moment you chose to walk away, even if no one else understood it. You may have cried in silence, left without closure, or stayed longer than you should have before finally releasing. But that departure wasn't about drama. It was about dignity. About claiming the right to leave situations, mindsets, even identities that once felt safe but now keep you small. And then, the disruption. The tower arrived like a storm you didn't invite but somehow needed. Because let's be honest, if life hadn't shaken you, you might have kept patching the cracks. You might have tried to hold it all together a little longer, hoping something would change. But that collapse? It wasn't punishment. It was permission. A divine realignment that said, you no longer have to carry what you've outgrown. Now, with the sun rising behind you, not only are you free, you are more yourself than you've ever been. Your light is no longer borrowed, filtered, or hidden. You've remembered that you don't have to shrink to be safe, that joy isn't a reward for suffering, it's your natural state when you return to alignment. And that brings us here, to this quiet but powerful moment. A space where the universe gently reminds you, what you are doing now is sacred. You are choosing authenticity over attachment. Truth over habit. Peace over approval. You're not choosing the easy way. You're choosing the aligned way. That takes real courage. You see, you're not who you were at the start of this journey. And you're not meant to be. You've crossed rivers of grief, peeled away layers of pretense, and now you stand in the presence of your becoming. You're not being asked to prove anything. You're simply being asked to walk forward slowly, bravely, and fully aware that your story has changed. So the real question is no longer, should I stay? It's, who do I get to become now that I'm finally free? This is what leaving really means, not stepping away from something bad, but stepping into something true. Let that be your compass now. And remember, as has been gently spoken for generations, you don't need to fight for what is meant for you. You only need to be aligned with it. The rest will unfold in its time. You've already done the hard part, choosing yourself. Now go live the life that only your soul could imagine. Of course. Here's the English version of your ending, written in a warm, inspiring, and emotionally rich tone by a guide in the top 0.1% of astrology, tarot, energy healing, and self-help, crafted to conclude the video with deep resonance and empower the viewer to take action. Libra, if you've stayed with me until this very moment, I want you to know something within you has already shifted. You're no longer just the bridge between others, the quiet keeper of harmony, the one who sacrifices their own needs just to make sure everyone else feels okay. You're not that version of yourself anymore. And maybe, deep down, you've known it for a while. This isn't about walking away because you're giving up. It's about walking away because you've finally grown past the fear that used to hold you back. Every decision you make from this moment forward, no matter how small, is a seed. A single moment of honesty, a quiet act of courage, a boundary drawn with love. These are the moments that plant the future you deserve. You don't have to overhaul your life overnight. You just need to begin choosing yourself, even in whispers. The energy will shift. The doors will open. And what once felt impossible will become inevitable. Maybe you still have questions in your heart. Am I being selfish? What if I'm wrong? Do I really deserve a life that feels aligned? Let me tell you something with full clarity. Even asking those questions means your soul is awake. The strongest people are not those who are always certain, the ones who dare to move forward anyway, even when their voice trembles and their heart is heavy. So here's what I want to encourage you to do: take one inspired action after this video ends. Maybe it's writing a sentence in your journal, "I'm learning to choose myself." Maybe it's finally speaking a truth you've kept buried. Maybe it's simply allowing yourself to rest without guilt. Whatever it is, let it be real. Let it be yours. That small act will echo into the universe as a declaration, "I'm ready." And now, I'd love for you to connect. Leave a comment below and tell me, what part of this reading made you pause? What truth are you ready to live by? If you feel called, write this simple but powerful phrase in the comments: "I choose myself." Let that be your energetic signal, your first step into alignment. If today's message resonated with you, if you felt seen, supported, or inspired, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next reading. This community Zodiac Whisper Tarot is more than a channel. It's a space where souls like yours come to be remembered, realigned, and restored. And I'm deeply honored to be part of your journey. You don't have to wait for another sign. The sign is already within you. If today you choose yourself, tomorrow the universe will meet you in that choice. And slowly, quietly, everything will begin to change.